The Attack on Titan finale. What's up with Mikasa's headaches, especially giving them to a certain Titan? Isn't that right, Eren? So what's up guys, Foxen here. Other timelines, other realities, Eren's demise, Titan magic. Is Mikasa just taking a page out of Mirai Nikki? Or did he say I'm actually foreshadowed this since chapter 1? So go ahead and also smash that like and subscribe. And by the way, my Evangelion non-spoiler review is now up. Definitely watch it after. Attack on Titan chapter 138 was a real game changer, having one of Attack on Titan's biggest twists. Unfortunately, at the same time, it did leave a good chunk of fans confused or outright pissed off, especially if you missed the major takeaway. Let's first dive into this looking at the known timeline slash reality slash possible future. For now, let's call it Timeline 1 and Timeline 2. For Timeline 1, you had the Attack on Titan event season 1 to 3, then the time skip happened. The branching off point is when Eren and friends actually visited Marley. We had the scene of Eren and Mikasa outside at nighttime. Eren asked Mikasa what he meant to her. In Timeline 1, Eren and Mikasa actually run away together. So hell yeah, Eren got together with his hot Asian sister. I originally read this quickly and thought their honeymoon getaway was at Paradise Island, but at this point they were at Marley, they could have been anywhere. In the recent chapter, Eren suggests the war with Marley still happened. But hold up a minute, wasn't Eren the one that triggered the attack on Marley? So it looks like with or without Eren, the Survey Corps was still going to be forced to launch an attack on Marley, which means the world forces being allied together was inevitable. The only difference perhaps being waiting a little bit longer to attack Paradise Island. But back to Eren and Mikasa, talk about a dick move. They essentially gave up. Both of them abandoned their friends and Eldian people, which reminds me of a certain failed timeline route from Steins Gate, which is why this original Timeline 1 feels weird. I mean, you could examine this further, but the main point is Eren and Mikasa, what they did doesn't really fit their character. On top of just straight out ditching Armin, the Survey Corps, and everyone else. If this really did happen, hopefully Eren's point of view next chapter can provide more insight. Next up, getting into Timeline 2. You had all the events leading up to Eren and Mikasa on that night staying the same. Only this time you have Mikasa family zoning Eren. After that, you know what happens, eventually leading to the current events as of the latest chapter. Looking at chapter 138, in Timeline 1, near the end, you saw what appears to be Eren at the end of his Titan sentence, which means the final 4 years had passed by. This is strongly suggested by the Titan markings wall in human form. You even got Mikasa saying, "See you later, Eren." If you're anime only, or if you did start reading the manga later, you may not recall this. This was actually in the first chapter. Let me just quickly mention, the "see you later" line isn't completely wrong, but it's not exactly right either. I'm going to assume whoever translated this did it to match the original chapter 1 line. In Japanese, Mikasa says, "Itterashai, Eren." It's the same for both scenes, in the chapter 1 Scarlet's Mikasa scene, and in the latest chapter to the dying Eren. I'm sure you heard this used in anime or Japanese dramas before. Usually with the person leaving, they say "itakimasu" or "itakuru," and then it's usually the mother saying "itterashai." It literally means go and come back, which is really just a send-off. I asked my Japanese buddy about this. He told me "itterashai" is also commonly used in the Japanese workplace when leaving. With that in mind, look back at the two Mikasa scenes. The first one by itself doesn't seem weird at all. You could just assume Eren is leaving somewhere. The wife of Mikasa is seeing him off. But then with chapter 138, this adds a whole new context. You see Eren slump down, but then the eyes open in the following panel, presumably close to dying. Itterashai, Eren. For some fun here, I did spend a day at the cafe dissecting this with a Japanese friend, along with some upcoming stuff you'll see. According to him, saying "itterashai" to a dying loved one feels off. I'm not saying this hasn't been done before, but both of us really couldn't find a popular example of this, either in anime or some other piece of entertainment. Who knows, perhaps Isayama wants to be a trendsetter. Omae mo shinderu. No, now it's "itterashai, mofo." Taking a step back, is Mikasa actually implying something here with that line? That is, Mikasa 4 years later is expecting to see Eren again despite him dying. In my initial impression slash review, you heard me bringing up Mikasa's Lost Girl story. That is definitely more relevant than ever now, so let's take a deep dive. Before fully jumping into that, just know there are various different versions of the story. It was also not written or drawn by Isayama himself. First off, you had the book released in 2013. It actually came as a combo with Mikasa and Annie's story. Then the manga. This was released 3 years later in 2016. It was definitely a more stripped down version. You later had an even more abridged version released with an anime version. Turns out you could actually go further back. The original combo novel is actually based off of 2 mini visual novels released on the anime Blu-ray. I recall reading Mikasa's Lost Girl story novel. It felt like a nice encapsulated story. If it was canon to the story, fun, juicy theories could be made. Fast forward years later, this Mikasa tale feels as relevant as ever, especially with some notable changes between adaptations. The first one, you had Mikasa getting visited by this butterfly. You actually have her hearing her own voice. If you don't like this reality, you could redo it again. Redo it from the place you wish. In that world, various things should be what you want. However, you cannot stop Eren's death. If you ask why, because Eren, and then it cuts off. Doesn't this sound very relevant to the latest chapter? The second scene, you have Mikasa's conversation with the mirror man that stops her. The guy mentions something about staying here too long, that it's time for Mikasa to go back, otherwise she wouldn't be able to return, that she wouldn't be able to remember Eren's face again, that Mikasa would be stuck here for the rest of her life. He insisted Mikasa had to kill him if she didn't want that to happen. So two key takeaways right here. You got that idea of not being able to recall Eren's face, which is actually very similar to recently where Mikasa had trouble recalling him. Let me also quickly mention that throughout the story, you do have some ideas that come back during the recent family talk. Although this seems to suggest that the Mirror Man could be Eren in some form, especially with how he insists Mikasa to kill him. Sound familiar? I did double check for the anime, the guy is actually voiced by someone random, it's not Eren. Another thing that does suggest it could have been Eren is that the Mirror Man keeps on mentioning hypnosis, which could be seen as a parallel to the Founding Titan ability, which you know Eren has. You should also notice that the novel mentions young Mikasa hearing a different voice too. In the anime, Mikasa clearly hears her own voice, which is similar to the start of all of this. The switch to her own voice happens as soon as Mikasa sees herself reflected. With this in mind, the anime change here is pretty telling. Instead of claiming Mikasa has been here for too long, the guy claims that Mikasa is lost here due to her own wishes. Due to Mikasa not being able to accept Eren's death, this is a world that Mikasa created herself. However, in whichever world Mikasa is in, she cannot stop Eren's death. This is where it switches to Mikasa's own voice. Continuing from the previous cut line, why can't Mikasa stop Eren's death? Because Eren's body is embraced by death. No matter how much you protect Eren, death will always catch him. Feels like it's subtly referencing the curse of Ymir. If you think this is a lie, you could go and confirm yourself. But first, you must kill me. You have to get stronger and return to the previous world. A little bit later, you even see an older Mikasa overlaid with the mirror guy. So perhaps this is a symbolic representation of herself. The third scene, you got a new anime only scene added. You got Mikasa on top of the wall right before they go to fight the warriors in season 3. This is actually added at the start and the end of the episode. At the start, Mikasa thought how Eren will leave them behind and go somewhere far away. Could she feel this way due to this have already happened once? Mikasa herself thinks that she cannot stop him. Is this perhaps the past Mikasa telling herself to not try to stop Eren this time? Mikasa goes on to say that she knows Eren will retake Wall Maria. He's gonna kill all the Titans, and even see the ocean. Notice how certain she is about this, that no one will be able to stop Eren. And that's fine, wherever Eren goes, Mikasa will be by his side. That is her only wish. So hopefully one day we get a confirmation from Isayama himself, but I would bet Isayama requested these additions and changes. Keep in mind, the Mikasa story already got updated to match the anime. One glaring change involves Armin and Eren's plane. Eren originally died riding their plane prototype, saving Armin in the process. Looks like Eren is always rescuing Armin. The anime version now changes to a hot air balloon, which does match the mysterious couple that tried to escape the walls, which I believe Isayama confirmed were Armin's parents. For this Mikasa special, it actually used the first ending, which you can see as even more foreshadowing. A shooting star! Is this Mikasa's wish? Or more like Mikasa's promise to Eren across time and space? You got Mikasa running, which could be a stand-in for the lost girl, or a forgotten memory. You got the branches behind Mikasa as she moves forward. You got multiple bloody daggers on the ground. Although this could be hinting at different branching timelines or realities. For the actual ending song, a super quick examination of the lyrics, it mentions constantly throwing away and finding, perhaps hinting at past memories. You got the line about sleeping peacefully. Could this be directed at Eren's eternal slumber? Or even Mikasa herself, that slumbering memory. Talking about forgetting and remembering again, this line is actually framed with Mikasa growing up at ditching the scarf. So some of you have asked me a lot about this before in the past, let me quickly touch on it. Not just this ending, but the other endings and openings, I do think there is some foreshadowing there. Not to mention other insert songs. At the same time, I do think a lot of this stuff is pretty vague enough that you could interpret it as foreshadowing. Not to mention, I am familiar with how these songs and endings are constructed, which is a whole other video topic. Anyway, back to Lost Girls. In the novel and manga version, besides Mikasa getting Eren's scarf, Eren also gives Mikasa Keisha Butterfly. Take a look at this. The novel explicitly shows Mikasa as a butterfly multiple times. So, butterfly effect anyone? I would say this would be too on the nose for Isayama, but then again you have him naming the bird boy Falco. The caged up butterfly, the one being kept by Eren, is later shown to be a stand-in for Mikasa. This could be seen as Mikasa being freed at the end of all of this. Quickly touching on butterflies in Japanese culture that are used heavily with symbolism, a popular symbolism that pops up is transformation or change, which naturally fits Attack on Titan, although once again vague enough to fit almost anything. For something removed for the anime, it's something regarding the Mirror Guy. Think over this as you see him as a stand-in for Mikasa. The Mirror Guy mentions repeating over and over, mixed in with living this meaningless life. Sound familiar? I'm getting an odd Madoka vibe. Could Mikasa secretly be playing this reset survivor type of role? But besides the changes, let's chew on this. In all versions, you have Mikasa waking up from it, and she feels like it's been a long dream. A long dream. Sound familiar? Which is similar to Eren waking up in chapter 1 and Mikasa waking up in the latest chapter. With Eren back on Attack on Titan episode 1, the anime actually ties this directly to Eren crying to two future events. Eren's mother dying, and then Hana's dying, both of them caused by the royal blood titan Dina. But don't forget another instance often overlooked. You got Eren waking up shouting and crying after the basement reveal. Interesting how Titan Dina was also involved. You again have the line from Eren thinking that it was an awfully long dream, to which Eren quickly corrects himself. It was not a dream but a past memory. So does this confirm Mikasa's supposed dream was also a past memory? It strongly feels like it. Taking a step back looking at the Attack on Titan wake-up scenarios, for young Eren on episode 1, this involved two future events. For season 3 Eren, this involved past events. Now look back at Mikasa, this should make you wonder, why was Mikasa recently crying? Thinking about this on a graph, Eren recalled memories on the Y and X axis, past and future. Could Akrams have the power to recall memories from the Z axis? In this case, memories from a different timeline or reality. Thinking about the Mikasa OVA Lost Girls special, what exactly is the purpose for it? Right now it feels like it foreshadowed two major things. First off, Eren dying, which really shouldn't be anything new considering the Curse of Ymir. Although do notice, at the time the story was published, this Curse of Ymir had not been revealed yet in the story. 2. An Ackerman ability, especially with the major update made to the anime version. Which gets to my wild Ackerman theory, their actual powers, what are they? Could the Ackerman have the ability to create either a new timeline, a new reality, a new world, if only temporary? Mikasa's Lost Girl special highly suggests it. Think about this in a different way. Recall what originally happened to little Ymir and the Titan Centipede. A chapter ago, you had Zeke recounting how Ymir escaped to this world that was free, even of death. It's not exactly the same, but you have a concrete example of Mikasa retreating into this different world, a different reality. One where Mikasa is explicitly told that she is the one that created it due to not being able to accept Eren's death. Watch it be like Wanda, where the Ackerman family can create a temporary pocket universe and bring Eldians inside of it. You were told that the Ackerman family is a byproduct of the Titan science, at least in the manga. You heard me play around with this idea in the past before. Could the truth be that some past Eldian king was trying to recreate what the Titan Centipede did to young Ymir? Perhaps that Eldian king, that founding titan, didn't get what he wanted. But after decades, maybe centuries of experimenting, this super-powered titan in human form family was created. I would bet you they were ignorant to their true special powers. All of this brings up an important question. What exactly are the conditions needed for Mikasa, for her to do this time jump or time reset? Since Eren is involved, it almost guarantees to involve the founding titan that is needed in some capacity. Perhaps whatever host the Ackerman attach themselves to. Looking at the whole timeline business, is it really a different timeline, a different reality, a different possible future? In other words, one that didn't happen yet? Let me point you to a passage from the novel, something that got skipped in the manga and anime. Right after Mikasa got back to her senses and trust, you had Mikasa feeling like she awoke from a long dream. Except she thought, it was not a dream. It was not some fantasy or illusion. It wasn't some wild delusion. It wasn't some parallel world that existed and that was running at the same time as the current one. It was some experience that did not have a name. All of this feels clear, but let's dissect it some. A main point being that it confirms it wasn't a dream, perhaps even giving more evidence for this separate timeline creation. At the same time, it does remind me a little of Steins Gate, where there's only a single timeline running at a given time. Mikasa, you must be a hell of a mad scientist. But let's not forget about a key part to this, Mikasa's headaches. My theory for this is actually one that I gave you like 2 years back, that the headaches are Mikasa trying to recall memories from a different timeline. I would take this one step further and say that it's Mikasa not being able to recall this important promise, either from Eren or her past self. Looking at all of the Mikasa headaches, the first one right after Carla died, the second one in season 2 after Eren got kidnapped. The third one, Mikasa looking at the well-done Armin. Number 4, pretty recently trying to recall young Eren, more specifically recalling the day she awoke her Ackerman powers. and the latest in the latest chapter, right after they got the task to kill Eren, which honestly feels like Mikasa finally recalled what she needed to. Putting all of this together, you had a past founding titan Eldian King that was experimenting, trying to recreate what happened to young Ymir, perhaps trying to discover what exactly the titan powers are. Due to this, the Ackerman family was created. They unknowingly had the sacred power to jump back in time or a redo ability. Some unknown restrictions and conditions exist. Like revealed in Lost Girls, Mikasa knows that Eren's fate is to die, and she's powerless to change the endgame for him. You got Mikasa's headaches that are due to her special Ackerman ability, which Mikasa gets to her trying to recall some previous important memory or promise. I would even wager this being an unintended defect for their creation. Levi doesn't get to this since he's not involved. But hey, that's just an Attack on Titan theory. Let me know your own thoughts or own theory below. And really, I want to stress how these other timelines, other realities, other futures, all of this still is in theory territory. We'll find out in like 2 weeks when Attack on Titan is done. Oh my god, bonus time. This is already long, but I think this does need to be hammered down for some of you. Just know that I do realize issues with some of these theories, and often do point them out. If this channel was dedicated to only Attack on Titan, I would probably do a part 2 examining issues, but thankfully this channel isn't. For this video, let me do a lightning round of issues or questions that do need to be addressed. First off, the Eren and Grisha flashback. How exactly does this fit in? Especially with Zeke noticing how it seemed like Eren seemed to be the one that pushed Grisha forward. I'll just quickly mention an obvious solution to this. Eren already seemed to be in control anyway. So could Eren have used the founding Titan power to influence this past memory, potentially messing with Zeke? 2. The restrictions with the Ackerman powers. What exactly are they? Which I'm betting Isayama will detail in the final chapter. It could be similar to how Isayama set up the Titan powers. Why don't you simply pass over the Titan abilities? Well, Billy, it's a complicated ass process. For Mikasa actually pulling a Subaru, redoing things. Why go back to 90-year-old Eren? In the special, she went back to the day she awoke in her powers. Perhaps these 2 limited save points could be seen as a defect of the Ackerman powers. The Lost Girl OVA special. Just putting it out there how you have this major plot point or foreshadowing for the story in a side story. Forget about not watching it. A good majority of Attack on Titan fans don't even know this is a thing. So Mikasa, see you later. Itterashai Eren. Sorry anime only people. What studio did not include this in the first season? Whether it was their own change or a request by Isayama. In the season 4 anime, wherever this pops up, the impact will definitely feel greatly diminished. No scar for Mikasa. Did she suddenly get some Deadpool healing factor? After all, you can't see the scar on her in the recent panel. For this, I would just say it's likely a detail Isayama thought of way later. Mikasa wasn't meant to have this scar. Eren's involvement. Whatever happened in those 4 years where Mikasa and Eren lived solo? Personally for me, I would love it if both Mikasa and Eren are involved in this master plan. In the last chapter, it feels like most people only really focus on Mikasa slicing Eren up. But they missed Eren smiling, almost smiling. You could feel it. Eren knew Mikasa finally remembered. That's how Mikasa knew Eren's location. So let's patiently wait to see what Isayama cooks up. Hopefully it doesn't end with Mikasa offering herself too. If that happened, people would bitch about this being a Romeo and Juliet ripoff. But anyway, share any thoughts or theories below, or just say hi. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This took a long ass time. I don't think they want me back at that cafe. Go ahead and watch my non-spoiler Evangelion movie review. I bet you're right, Ball, that Attack on Titan will definitely be compared even more to that now. And I'll see you guys later.